Hello, ladies and gentlemen. MarauderEX here with kind of an update, channel update, life update video. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, and I figure, why not? Since the world's on fire, now's as good a time as any to do this. Speaking of, 2 years ago when I did my last channel update video, I said that there were going to be things going on in the background that were going to more likely affect the channel in some sort of negative fashion. And it did. Aside from changing backdrops a couple of times, changing where the game room was in the house more than once, my uploads suffered considerably, in both quality and quantity. I went from doing multiple projects to doing a single project and barely getting that out on a reasonable timetable. There were days, weeks, months that very little, if any, content was going out, and that's mostly because of all of the stuff that was going on. Because at the end of the day, during this, I was both physically and mentally exhausted. I almost said physically. I was exhausted. There was just so much going on. It was very difficult to put out content that I could feel proud of. I didn't want to put out half-assed content. I wanted to put out good content, content that I would be proud of. And at the time, it was very difficult to do that because I just didn't have it in me to be as entertaining or as professional as I thought I could be. And so I've told myself I'd rather not put out content than put out content that I would not be proud of, or content that I feel that I would later go back and delete because it was not up to my standards. So yeah, that happened. But now everything that was going on in the background has finally subsided, and it is now things that I can talk about. And I figured it's good to just get it out there so that it can be, dealt with one way or another. So 2 years ago, Amanda and I separated. It was not a pleasant separation. Most separations are not pleasant. The divorce was finalized last week, which again, most divorces, not pleasant. Some can be, but not in this case. This was not that typical. So, yeah, that's something that happened. And in the state in which I live, we are required to be separated for at least a year before we can file for divorce, which is why it's been at least 2 years. The first year that we were separated, there was very little contact. Then the second year, once we had been separated for the first year and could file paperwork, we started actually negotiating the terms of the divorce, which negotiating was difficult at best. It's very, very difficult to negotiate splitting up half your life. And also during that time, I had several job changes, because one of the things that was also necessary was I needed a better paying job if I wanted to keep the house, which was one of the things that I wanted out of the divorce, is I wanted to be able to keep my home. And so I went through several job changes. Currently I've been at my current place for a little over a year now. It is a fantastic job. It pays well enough to where I have no worries about keeping my house. So between separation, divorce, new jobs, trying to help out friends as well, and then just throw on top of that the utter horror show that has been 2020. That's been my last 2 years, and I'm glad it's over. I'm so glad it's over. What it means for the future of the channel. I do have a full-time job now. I have had a full-time job for the last year, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things in terms of regular recording and upload schedules so that I can keep this going. I wanted YouTube originally to be my career. That has not since panned out in the way that I would like it to be. But I can still do this for entertainment, which is what I originally set out to do. So that's at the very least what I'm going to continue to do. But I do have a full-time job, so that is going to eat a little bit into my recording time, so I probably won't be able to go back to 2 concurrent projects at a time, which is something that I've been kind of trying to get back into, but I don't know if that's going to be as feasible as I would like it to be. As far as everything else, I have my house, so I don't need to worry about that. I have my car, so I don't need to worry about that. So I'm doing all right on those regards. I did keep the cats, so the cats will continue to show up in all of my future live streams and probably some video content as well. I got to keep the boys. Other things, I did take down some content that involved Amanda, some content that was not finished, and some content that would not continue in the way that it should, really. So like the Gamer Girl box unboxings, things like that, because also that program had since ceased. A lot of the monthly subscription box services ended up dying out. That was a very quick rise and fall for that fad, it seems. But there's been some other content like Yoshi's Woolly World and things like that that she was involved in that I have taken down, mostly because they weren't super popular at the time. They weren't finished before all of this came to its conclusion, and there is some content that is still up, and I'm debating what to do with that. Things like Kingdom Hearts, which is a franchise that had a very strong emotional connection for me in regards to my previous relationship. I don't think I'm going to ever be playing them anytime in the foreseeable future, so I may leave that content up for now because it is still fairly popular, but I don't know. I'm still kind of waffling on that. That's also one of the reasons why I did not play Kingdom Hearts 3, and why a lot of people were asking when am I going to get to playing Kingdom Hearts 3, and I didn't really talk about that. Mostly because I didn't want to talk about any of this while it was still ongoing, because I didn't want anything that I said that could be potentially taken out of context and therefore used against me in some sort of negative way. Like I said, there was negotiations going on. It was not pleasant negotiations, so it was... I wanted to cover as many bases as possible. So yeah, that's really it. Some other things that I wanted to discuss. Jessie. Not dating Jessie. A lot of people have said that. I just want to throw that out there. Not dating Jessie. Jessie's my roommate. I get along with her very well. We have a lot of similar senses of humor and jokes. Obviously, you've seen the live streams for the past couple of years. But not dating. In fact, I am dating Libet, who has shown up in a lot of the streams and in a lot of previous content. And one of the things that I've not really talked about before, that I can kind of freely talk about now, is I had been dating Libet for a very long time. Coming up on the better part of like 13 years, 14 years, something in that neighborhood. Whereas I had been with Amanda for 16 to 18 years. So a lot of people doing the math there. I am poly. I've never really been able to do monogamy. I've never had one core relationship. And so, yeah, that, for those possibly piecing together, did have some to play in the divorce. Not its key factor, but it did play a part. But obviously, if, both relationships concurrently lasted for a decade or more, that was a thing. But it is something that I had wanted to address previously and never did, because I didn't want to rock any boats in anyone else's life. But as it is now, I can now talk freely about that a little bit. So, but yeah, as far as things go now, I want to continue working on the channel. I want to continue providing decent content, content that, again, I can be proud of, and I want to move past a lot of this. Like I said, it has been a very, very challenging couple of years. And part of what made it worse is not being able to talk about it freely. And some of my subscribers and some of my friends here on the internet have known, and they've been able to reach out to me, and I've been able to talk to them a little bit about it, but it's very difficult when I was trying to still put on a public face and a public persona, and, you know, be like, oh yes, playing a game, doing this, doing that, and someone said something in chat that I would have loved to have been able to respond to, but it could have given something away. Again, when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, a lot of people were asking when and if I'm going to play it, and am I going to play it with Amanda, and I couldn't say anything directly. All I could say is probably not now, because I didn't want anything to kind of blow up in my face, which is kind of a depressing way of looking at it, but, you know, is what it is. But things are done now, and I can finally move forward with that. I can finally move on, and I can talk a little more freely about that. And as such, that is a major weight lifted off my shoulders, honestly. Feeling like I've been kind of, you know, hamstrung, not being able to discuss major events, especially when, you know, things related to them are being discussed, and I'm like, okay, I can't talk about this right now. Like, it's been really depressing that I've on any form of social media, I've not been able to talk about my new job. I've not been able to talk about some of the changes that I've made around the house, some of the construction that I've done. I've not been able to talk about a lot of things going on in my life. Like, posting that I bought my car was exceptionally liberating, because, like, at that point it didn't matter. It was not, you know, a piece in play. And so, like, I could do something for me that I really wanted to do for a really long time, and that made me feel really good. And this is part of that as well, just being able to say, hey, I can now talk about this. Doesn't mean I'm going to want to address a ton of questions or answer things, and maybe I can't address certain questions and answers, just for, you know, privacy's sake. But it is something that I wanted to bring up, of this is what had been going on, this is why changes had been made, and hopefully now that it is done, things can go back to normal for my channel. And I say that loosely because my channel's not normal. I'm not normal. But that's the way it is. So, yeah, thank you for bearing with me these past 2 years with the inconsistent updates and everything. And thank you for all of the continued support you guys have given me unknowingly. A lot of you had no idea what specifically was going on in the background, but just knew when I would do a stream or something, and I'd say, it's been a rough week, it's been a rough day. Just the outpouring of support of, yeah, we're right here with you, we understand, it's been rough for us too. Like, especially when I don't go into specifics of what's going on, just the nebulous, hey, you're doing great, was exceptionally helpful. And I want to thank all of you for all of the continued support for the channel. Like I said, I really wanted this to kind of become my career, and it hasn't taken off that way. Like, I haven't become the next Markiplier as much as I would love to. But at the same time, I can say without any uncertainty and any hesitation or any doubt that I love my audience. You guys are amazing. You make this worth doing, and it warms me. It warms my heart to know that I have such an amazing audience. And I look back at all the things I've done, like previous charity live streams and things like that, where I can just say, my audience is amazing, and you all are the reason why I want to continue doing this, is because I love the interaction. I love it. So, again, thank you all for all of your continued support. It has meant the world to me. It has got me through a lot of the really rougher moments in the last 2 years. It was just, even though I didn't do everything consistently, when I did put up a video, all the positive feedback I'd get on it. When I did do a live stream, all the positive feedback I got on it. Things like that just really made a lot of the dark time much more bearable. So thank you all for that. And I will continue to try to put out as best content as I can in the coming days and weeks and so on. So thank you all for that. Thank you for letting me to vent this a little bit. Because, like I said, it's been very cathartic to be able to talk about it publicly. So, yeah. Till then, later, everyone.